8,000 feet. 200 feet per second.
An extraordinary moment. What may be in the making here, one of the most surprising and dramatic successes of the United States space
All
program.
signals look good. 4,000 feet, stable. 4,000 feet and stable.
And stable. That was a key word. Unknown was the effect of the possibly not extended
1,000
antenna
foot
boom.
mark.
1,000 foot mark.
800 feet per second.
38 seconds to go.
Feet. 400 feet. 200 feet. 100 feet per second. 100 feet. 100 feet. 100 feet. 13 feet per second speed.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Touchdown.
All now depends on the stability, the attitude stability of the Surveyor 1.
Signal strength is reported at minus 125.5 dBm. We'll now await further indication on the condition of the Surveyor.
The Surveyor has landed.
Thrust phase power is being turned off. That has been commanded. Thrust phase power is off.
Astonishing success of Surveyor 1, which was supposed to be the first of 4 tests of our ability to see if we could land a Surveyor craft softly on the surface of the moon. So far, all indications are astonishing. The Surveyor is on the surface of the moon. It is broadcasting signals. It appears to be undamaged. Still unknown whether it will be able to erect all the proper apparatus, the large antenna, the high gain antenna needed for good signals.
That's the radar system that controls the final touchdown is now being turned off. That is now off.
The Surveyor program, for all its criticism, has successfully done in this one shot something that it took the Soviet Union 9 tries, 9 lunar firings to accomplish, a soft landing on the moon. What remains to be seen is whether it is a further success in the sense that we will get acceptable and useful pictures from the surface of the moon.
I imagined that my first trip to outer space was going to be a memorable one. I didn't expect it to be quite this memorable. But yeah, what we do is hard. And it's not something that I think you can state enough. What do we mean when we say space is hard? Human exploration of space is hard. There's risk, and we do everything we can to mitigate that risk. But there's always some risk there. The designers, the engineers, the people that build these spacecraft, they're constantly trying to make the perfect spacecraft. But it can't be perfect all the time. So we have contingencies in place, and we have other fail-safe systems. And you know, this was just a great example of those fail-safe systems stepping in and doing their job. We hadn't had to use those on the Soyuz in 35 years. And you know, it was still ready to go when it was needed. And so for that, I'm very thankful for all those people that invested so much in making sure that those fail-safe systems are in place. You know, the first 2 minutes of the launch were going great. Everything was nominal, and it was right after the first staging when the booster started to separate inside. It went from normal to something was wrong pretty quick. The automated system pulled us away from the rocket so fast, and so the first thing I really noticed was being shaken fairly violently side to side as that safety system pulled us away from the rocket. And then there was an alarm inside the capsule and a light that was up there, and you know, I knew once I saw that light that we had an emergency with the booster, that at that point we weren't going to make it to orbit that day. So the mission changed to getting back down on the ground as safely as we could.
Well, copy.
View here of the Soyuz making its way into space.
The first frame or two before the feed cuts from the capsule of us being shaken side to side, it continued for a little while after that before it settled out, and then it was kind of a slow coasting ride to the top of our ballistic trajectory. So there were a couple things that happened at the top. I got to experience a few seconds of weightlessness, and I was able to watch a few things float around in the capsule. Our zero-G indicators that we had hanging with us were floating around. I was also able to look out the window, primarily to make sure, hey, are we in a good attitude? Are we stable? Are we ready to come back down? But also look out the window and realize, looking down at the curvature of the Earth and out into the blackness of space and realizing I got close, but it wasn't going to be this time. Everything was new for me. It was my first time. So I have to give kudos to my commander, Alexei Ovchinin. He's a seasoned veteran cosmonaut, and as we were going through this, he was able to tell me, what was normal, what was not normal. Obviously, a ballistic descent, we come up and we're coming back down in a fairly steep trajectory, and to lose all of that energy, it all ends up being absorbed as wind resistance and G. And so the G's built up pretty fast. Luckily, we didn't have the 6 to 7 G's for very long. It was only a handful of seconds, and then things were back down to normal. From that point, after that peak of G, it's a normal Soyuz landing, and so everything went nominal from that point on. So I've been in the centrifuge. I've felt what 6, 7 Gs feels like. They take us all the way up to 8 Gs when we're doing the training. Then, the other aspect is we are in a capsule that looks just like the real thing. It's actually old parts that they've scavenged from previous vehicles. And so when you're sitting in there and the simulations and the emergencies are going off and the alarms are sounding and you're making all the switch throws, it feels just like you're there. And that was one of the comments I had to Alexei when we were sitting there before launch, is this feels just like the simulator. So it's a very comfortable feeling because you've spent so many hours inside there. You know where every switch is at by memory. You really don't have to look to be able to find what you're after. We looked at each other. We had grins from ears to ears. You can imagine the scene. We're in the capsule. We're kind of hanging upside down from our straps because of the orientation of the capsule. And we look at each other, big grins. He holds out a hand. I shake his hand. And then we start cracking a few jokes between us about how short our flight was. Funny story, we're sitting there next to the capsule after we've landed, and we're trying to make all the phone calls on our satellite phone that we're supposed to make, and then after that we start trying to get in touch with loved ones. So after Alexei was able to speak with his wife, I called mine, and unfortunately it went to voicemail. So now she has she's got a voicemail that she can keep as a memento for the rest of her life.
We just had a formal go for Lemjet at your convenience, over. Lemjet. Okay, copy that. Farewell Aquarius, and we thank you.
This is Apollo Control Houston at 141 hours, 31 minutes into the flight. We've had lunar module jettison, and for Apollo 13, the age of Aquarius ended at 141 hours, 30 minutes, ground elapsed time.
The Ranger Block 3 spacecraft included solar panels, an omni and high-gain antenna, mid-course motor, electronics, batteries, and the television subsystem. The TV subsystem contained 6 cameras. Launch of the Ranger missions was accomplished by an Atlas-Agena combination from Cape Kennedy. After separation from the Atlas booster, the Agena and spacecraft combination entered a parking orbit from which the spacecraft and Agena were injected on a lunar trajectory.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The mission of the Block 3 Ranger flights was to obtain television pictures of the small-scale topography in selected areas of the lunar surface, which would benefit science and the manned lunar program. On July 31, 1964, 1,120 kilometers, NASA's Ranger 7 spacecraft, 576 kilometers, impacted the moon in a pre-selected target area. Camera B provided valuable oblique views. 9 minutes to impact. Altitude, 608 kilometers. Impact. During the last 17 minutes of flight, the spacecraft transmitted back to Earth more than 4,000 pictures of the lunar surface.
What are we over now, TJ?
Just south of New Orleans, I'd guess.
Okay, coming down J86 maybe.
Looks like it.
Give you a playback of that last departure. Stand by just a minute.
That's beautiful. Another space first.
Beat Bruce and his MMU.
A happy landing for Russia's unmanned Lunar 17 spacecraft and a big step forward for Soviet scientists in Lenin's Jubilee year. The first self-propelled vehicle ever to drive across the lunar landscape is controlled from Earth. It's called Lunokhod 1, and here's how this extraordinary Heath Robinson 8-wheeler was rolled down from the spacecraft onto the Sea of Rains. The size of the vehicle hasn't been disclosed, but it's been sending back television pictures and carries, among other equipment, a laser reflector. It's been used to survey the moon's surface. So now Soviet space experts have proved their theory that space exploration can be carried out by automatic equipment without risking the lives of astronauts. To Russia, Lunokhod is worth its weight in moon dust.
God.
Weightlessness. Oh, Jesus. No description can equal this. Wait.
This is nuts!
Oh,
This is Earth?
oh, I'm telling you.
Holy hell.
bad that leg didn't want to go on down, leg. Okay. Get that TV out and show everybody. In a minute. Lock inner mass, lock outer mass, extend and lock brakes. We've got a line, remove thermal cover. Okay? Big one, thermal cover. Goodbye. Okay, Houston, I'm going to move the TV camera now.
Roger, Al.
Hey, it's real nice moving around out there. You don't seem to get tired. You really hop like a bunny. Where is Earth? There it is. There's the TV. And it's way towards the sun. That's there. Here a minute. There's that. Look at that go. Hey, Ed, I was going to deploy this 20 feet at 10, but because of the sun being where it is, we're going to have to deploy a little bit more towards the 2 o'clock position. I think that'll be okay, though. That'll give you a good shot right in here. Let's see if I can keep the sun from getting in the camera at all.
Al, we have a pretty bright image on that TV. Could you either move it or stop it down?
Okay, I'm going to have to stop it down. That's as far as it goes, Houston. How does that look to you?
No, it still is the same, Al. Why don't you try shifting the scene?
Okay, I'm going. The problem is, Lim is very reflective. Let me, I got 2 choices. Let me go over here further to the side, and you check and see if it reflects too much, and if it does, I'll have to go stick it in the shade, and then maybe shine past the limb. Of course, that makes it not too good either, but maybe the best we can do. Let's see how this...
Okay, Al, and also you might try the automatic light control to the outside.
Okay, Al, watch. Radio system, I got you. How does that look, Houston?
Still looks the same, Al. We have a very bright image at the top and blacked out at the about for 80% of the bottom.
Good afternoon, and soon we'll be saying good evening to Europe on the first exchange of live programs between the television networks of the United States and their affiliated stations and the European Broadcasting Union, which extends all the way from Sweden in the north to Italy in the south, from the Irish Sea to the Dalmatian coast. To the European broadcasters, this exchange of programs between nations is already a tradition, and they do it very well. And Brussels, are we checked through to you by audio lines?
Hello, America. Hello, New York. Hello, Walter Cronkite. This is Richard Dimbleby in Brussels, Belgium. We're getting you loud and clear. 1 second, please. All your sound lines are through, clear to Europe.
Thank you, Richard Dimbleby. We'll be coming back to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just been informed that this baseball game is being seen in Europe right now over the Telstar satellite. Let's give all the baseball fans in Europe a big hello from Chicago.
The time is 5:50, but that's Eastern Daylight Time, the time on the eastern seaboard of the United States. In the center is the clock that will show the amount of time that Telstar satellite uses as it passes on its orbit. On the right, you see Central European Time, British Summer Time, our time, 10:50 tonight. 2.5 hours ago, we saw the first American Telstar program broadcast televised to Europe. Our turn comes now. In a very few minutes, you're going to see those pictures that are on the monitors now, transmitted live across the Atlantic 3,000 miles and 5 hours backwards in time. My name's Richard Dimbleby. I'm talking to you at the moment from the control room of Eurovision in Brussels. Our engineers working all around me here are already in communication, by sound only, of course, at this moment, with the United States of America. I hope at this moment to be able to talk to Howard Smith in New York. Are you there, Howard? Hello, Howard Smith.
Hello, Richard Dimbleby.
Would you just check for me, please, that you're now getting our sound circuits good and clear?
I'm afraid I'm not hearing you clearly.
Can you hear me? I'm asking you whether you are getting our sound circuits at the moment.
We are now getting your sound clearly, and we're looking forward with great anticipation to seeing your program.
I'm speaking from the International Control Room at BBC Television Centre. In the middle of a chaos of wires and people shouting down microphones and watching monitor screens, the engineers are waiting here tonight to make television history. Now there are just 45 seconds to go, and the tension is really rather unbearable.
This is the main control room at Goonhilly Down, the point at which Telstar's first signals across the Atlantic will be received in the British Isles. Outside this building, 200 yards away, the great dish aerial, all 870 moving tons of it, will in a few moments be aimed at that point on the horizon over which Telstar will come swinging low in a few minutes from now.
Here we are. Here we are. There's a bar. Now, we are anticipating... That's a man's face. There it is. There it is. That's the picture. You see it for yourself. There it is. It's a man. There's the unmistakable image. There is the first live television picture across the Atlantic with rather less than 4 minutes of available time left. And now has it disappeared? Was that it?
And it's held on the right-hand monitor perhaps a little better than on the left-hand one.
Out of 10,000 feet at 288. Body flaps and trail. Roger. $5,000 feet. Airspeed 280. Range about 3 miles.
Flare is.
Roger. 1,000 feet. Airspeed 292. Still in auto.
50 feet, gear coming.
Comes the gear.
Gear down, 20. 10, 5, 4, touchdown. Nose gears, 10. Nose gears, 5, 4, 3, 3. Touchdown. Bienvenidos, amigos.
The mission elapsed time of touchdown, unofficially 8 days, 0 hours, 4 minutes, 49 seconds.
Okay, wheels are stopped, Houston.
Okay, Columbia, welcome home. That was a beautiful job.
Frequency 111, Terry. Roger, go. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
The United States is ready to try and place its first Earth satellite into orbit.
Fine command, fine command. Using pictures. Selecting pictures to the fire. Ignition, lightning.
And there is a tremendous burst of flame. We can see the Jupiter C missile on its way.
Increasingly obvious that there was a need for a trainer that was more consistent with the lunar module, whose physical characteristics were now becoming established. Building a lunar module that would fly on Earth like a LLRV was possible, but prohibitively time-consuming and expensive. Serendipitously, the LLRV, although predating the lunar module, was not all that different in physical size and control rocket geometry. 3 of the vehicles were lost, one due to a loss of propellant pressurizing gas, one when wind shear produced aerodynamic rolling moments that the control system couldn't handle, and one due to a primary electric system failure where the switch over to the backup system failed. The Weber ejection seat could operate successfully at 0 altitude with a 30 foot per second downward vertical velocity, the best performance of any seat up to that time. NASA management was forever worried about the reliability and safety of these machines and continually wanted to shut them down. But the pilots insisted they were vital to lunar landing preparation, and they prevailed.
We received several pictures yesterday afternoon and evening, and we'd like to run through some of those now. This is the one that came in here at about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. This is by far the most spectacular picture we have so far. This is raw data. It has not been processed in any way. We can see the big banded planet, and of course the ring system is very prominent in this picture. Also prominent is Saturn's largest moon, Titan, in the upper right-hand corner. Titan is a very large moon, 3,600 miles in diameter, almost planet-sized. So the Pioneer Saturn mission continues to go very, very well. We're about 50 hours now from closest approach on Saturday morning. This is Pioneer Saturn mission operations.
On November 21, 1960, MR-1 was again scheduled for launch, and the countdown began. Everything proceeded normally, and all checks forecasted a successful launch. The repaired attitude control system on the spacecraft checked out perfectly. Weather was good all the way down the Atlantic range. Tracking and telemetry equipment were completely operational and ready to go. The recovery forces were deployed in the prescribed landing area, ready to pick up the spacecraft. The countdown neared 0. The Redstone engine fired, then shut down almost immediately. The escape tower fired. The antenna canister lid opened, the drogue chute popped, followed by the main chute, and then the reserve parachute. When the spacecraft received the engine shutdown signal, it began to do exactly what it was supposed to do. In response to the signals received, the craft functioned properly. Both the escape rocket and the parachute recovery system went through the normal sequence of action. A careful examination of telemetry data and the booster itself showed the premature engine shutdown to be caused by a relatively simple fault in a piece of ground support equipment.
Real good. I wish I had guts enough to do a barrel roll here. I feel like a bag in a saddle again, buddy. get your ventral. Okay, we'll lay clear the edge of the lake here. All right. So coming off now. Clean separation. Good deal, buddy. Showing 260. 5,000 feet. Oh, she handles nice right along here. Snaps. Big trim change. Get her down. Sorry, you're 230 yet. Here. Take it easy, the gear. You got it? Nose gear's out. You're about 30 feet. Now just hold her steady and you'll settle right there. Yeah, I want a helicopter to take pictures of the skid marks.
As we move around to my left here, you'll notice that for those of you who lived on a farm in the good old days, in fact, this is a good old days for lots of farmers, we have a one-holer. This one-holer is somewhat different than the one that you're, however. As you know, of course, our one-holer is back on the ground, everything goes down. But the things don't go down here, so we have to treat it a little bit differently. You'll notice the other thing that's new and different about this is that it's on the wall, and that we sit on the wall to do our thing here in Skylab, and of course that doesn't make any difference. Simply grasp the handles firmly and put yourself in the proper position, and one thing you don't want to forget to do is to turn on your blower. Now the reason we have this blower is so that air can be sucked in this manner and take the contents and push it toward the back of the bag. And since it doesn't drop into the water as it does at home in your 1G toilet, we have to have this blower device to take the contents and take it to the back of the bag. And in here we have a bag that after we turn off our blower, we can seal around the top. Of course, all of this has to be analyzed by doctors back at home, and you can imagine that 56 days of this for 3 men would be a pretty big blivet. So what we have to do is dry it, and we have dryers for that purpose. Now, after we have sealed this, we have first to determine what its mass is. Wet. It's wet mass, and so we have a mass measuring device in this little compartment, and we take this bag with its contents, secure it to the mass measuring device, turn it on, and it oscillates back and forth, and depending on how heavy it is or how massive, why it oscillates at a different frequency, which is then converted to a weight. We record that on the little tab on the bag, along with who it belongs to and what the time and date is, and then we dry this. This is dried by placing it into what we call a fecal dryer. And here you see we have 6 fecal dryers. For example, let's try this one right here. Now, it has a vacuum on it. Each one of these little dryers can be opened to space vacuum. And the bag here's one that's been dried already. The bag has got a little filter in it. We place it in a fecal dryer. close the door, and open the vacuum valve. Now, to accelerate this process, we have a heater. We can set that heater on a timer. We can determine what the time is by the mass or the weight of the contents in the bag. And when the timer times out, the contents is dry, and it comes out in the form that you saw it here. We can then take this bag and seal up the little filter through which it was dried. Take off this green tape, take this little flap, seal it together, and put it away for storage back home. The contents of the bag now are completely dry and ready for transport back home and analysis. And then, of course, we have to put another bag in here. Okay, we simply take a bag out of our bag locker, install it in here, and seal it in there in the proper manner, and we're off and running again. Now, we also, of course, have to urinate just like you do at home, and we each have to save a sample of our daily urine. So we each have a urine receiver drawer, which you use with the same blower that we use for the fecal collector. We can use this tube to urinate into, turn on our blower, and the air entrains the urine and takes it down into a bag which is contained down into this drawer. And I can show you this drawer and what it looks like. Inside of this green box, there's a bag. We use one bag per day to collect our daily urine. And every day we take this bag out and sample it. We have the mechanism right here for sampling this urine. We mix it up and fasten the sample bag to it. And take a sample of that urine and freeze it. After the urine is sampled, we take the little sample bag and put it in a freezer down here. I can show you one of these samples that was taken just this very morning. It's already quite hard. This is the size of a sample that we bring home from each day's urine. And then the rest of the urine is thrown away in our trash airlock, which I'll show you in a short time. So that's how we handle the waste on Skylab. It's a no fuss, no muss operation. The whole system works very well, and we're very pleased with it. We haven't had any spills yet, and we don't anticipate we will. It's very clean and very sanitary, and a system that those who designed it can be proud of.
This is Gemini Control in Houston at 4 hours and 26 minutes into the flight. We have established contact with Gemini 9 over the Hawaiian tracking station. Tom Stafford reports we have a weird-looking machine. The clamshells are on. The shroud clamshells are on, but they are open wide, and evidently the bolts are blown. And we will pick up now that voice communication between Hawaii and Gemini 9.
Hello, Houston, Gemini 9. Gemini 9, Hawaii? Hawaii, we've got a weird-looking machine here. What does it look like? Okay, both the clamshells of the nose cone are still on, but they're open wide. The front release has let go, and the back explosive bolts that attach it to the TDA have both fired. It appears that one of the bolts from the band is fired. The one's keeping it together is the split disconnect for a small electrical connector that fires the bolts on the band. Roger, understand. So the jaws are it's like an alligator's jaw that's open at about 25 to 30 degrees, and both the piston springs looks like are fully extended. Roger. Now, both of the back parts of the nose cone have separated from the TDA, and it looks like it's just held on by some inconceivable force there. Everything looks good. Roger, we understand. What type of rates have you got? How bad is it coming? Roger, it appears that the basic rate is enrolled. The body axis right now is nearly horizontal. Very slight bit of yaw. And the big rates are in roll.
Roger, understand.
It's the pyros, it's the cables on the pyros. That front clamshell strap has hard. You can see the black stretch marks on it. I'm now about 3 feet from it. And those electrical connectors that could disconnect did not connect on either one of them.
They did not disconnect, is that right?
Too small. And the band is holding the whole mast together. Now stand by one. Let me give you a distance on this other one. Delaware and Richard Eyes here. Can we hack it over the stakes?
Roger, I was just going to suggest it. I'm getting too close to LOS.
Yeah, and I'm too close to the nose cone, too.
Roger.
It looks like an angry alligator out here rotating around.
I can imagine.
That was voice communication between the Hawaiian tracking station and Gemini 9, and you heard Tom Stafford give a very vivid description of the status of the shroud that is still hanging to our target vehicle. Our next communication, of course, will come when we get over the stateside pass in a few minutes, and we will attempt to bring further information at that time, hopefully a plan whereby we can release the shroud. This is Gemini Control at 4 hours, 34 minutes into the flight.
Внутри верхний корпус работает, сейчас расщеплен.
Понял.
Делай наворот вправо.
Облачность вам не помешает?
Нет, нет. Углом увеличил до 19, сейчас уменьшает до 15. 5 градусов с углом 10 градусов, тормоз раскрывается. Даже следов обгорелся, таких нет, только кроме так, как плитки как бы снились. Вошли в облачность.
Понял.
what's happening?
Oh, who did it? Who did what? Who did it? Give me some. Where did that come from? Give me a napkin quick. There's a turd floating loose. I didn't do it. It ain't one of mine.
I don't think it's one of mine.
Mine was a little more sticky than that. Oh, anyway. God almighty. What do you see? Nothing. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
Nice going there.
No more turds are going to fit in there.
Is that waste compartment full? No. Hell, there's nothing in there. It goes all the way down to the deck.
Well, it's going to stick there. When I got in there, I had to stick my hand in there and shove it.
He put it in the bag, didn't he? You guys been trying to stick it through there with your fingers? Okay, let's firstly get contact.
Tom, what bothers me about this contact is this.
They said around 135.
They told us that.
Here's another goddamn turd. What's the matter with you guys? Here, give me a...
Well, Dave, if it was me, I sure didn't know I was sitting on the floor.
Was it just floating around?
Yeah.
Mine was stickier than that. Mine was too. It hit that
when
bag.
I stuck my finger in it, mine was nice and soft. I don't know who that is. I can neither claim it nor disclaim it.
Got back on the arm, it's just kind of a reverse scenario of the way we got it back down there. We passed it back to where Fish took off his handling bar, and I got hold of it up on top, maneuvered it into the predetermined launch position, and probably the spin-up was one of the easier parts of the whole thing. Mike got a good documentation of all this. This is the first push here. We found that the arm was a lot stiffer than I had originally thought. We tested this in the payload bay, and we're able to, I think I got a good 1 RPM here on the first push, which meant it's probably about 50 to 60 pounds of push on it. We had planned about 10 pounds is what we thought the arm would be good for, and I got four pushes on it total, which was put it up higher than we had planned or higher than we needed it to be. Hughes was interested in getting it anywhere from 2 to 10 RPM. I believe we ended up at about 2.8. We could have stayed there and continued, but we decided that things were looking so good, let's not try to make it better. This was the second one. The first and the last one were about the best, but you can see we were real pleased that the attitude of it looked real good. It was not coning, which is the one thing that we'd concerned ourselves the most with. It was spinning very regularly. Again, Joe was doing a great job of keeping me right in there to get it when I came by again. You just reach out and give it another push. You can see the orbiter, every time you push on it, it would move away from you at a small, about 0.2 of a foot per second. The orbiter had to make that up. And we got it every single time it went by, so it was, we were real pleased with that. This is the last one. It's going now a little bit over 2 RPM. I got a real good push on this one. You can see the arm bounce on these things every time you'd get hold of it. Give one little push goodbye, and we quit chasing it, and then you can see it now separating away from the orbiter. It looked in excellent condition. The only thing we left with it were those electronic boxes, and we left this 5-pound spin-up bar on it. About this time, took one look back at it and couldn't reach around to pat myself on the back, so we were all pretty pleased with it here, though. That was a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm going to park the Rover, Houston. I think we got everything out of it there is to get, okay?
Okay, it sounds good. We think so, too.
We were going to do a bunch of exercise that we had made up as the Lunar Olympics. Show you what a guy could do on the moon with a backpack on. But
for a 380-pound guy, that's pretty good.
They threw that out. Yeah, jump flat-footed, straight in the air. 300, about 4 feet. Wow. Charlie, that ain't any fun, is it? That ain't very smart. Well, sorry about that. Right, now we do have some work to do. How about a hand, John? There we go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to park the Rover. Okay. We'll start upstairs then. Well, no, you're too dirty to go up there. I'm not going in. I'm just taking some bags up, okay? Okay.
Three, two, one. We have ignition and liftoff of NASA's New Horizons spacecraft on a decade-long voyage to visit the planet Pluto and then beyond. Plus 15 seconds. Everything continues to look good as the Atlas V vehicle climbs away from Florida's east coast. The 5 solid rocket strap-on boosters are burning just fine, sending the New Horizons spacecraft on its way to the very edge of our solar system.
Okay, we're in lock with carrier. Stand by for telemetry.
Space network.
In lock on symbols.
So that's the first step in getting data.
Okay, copy that. We are in lock with telemetry with the spacecraft.
See a lot of green numbers in that one, too.
Yeah, green is good.
Yeah.
You gotta get that, man.
Okay, subsystems, as you get enough.
Look at that.
Wow.
Subsystems, please report your status as you get enough data.
So now the subsystems will be reporting their status.
Mom, this is RF on Pluto 1.
Go ahead, RF.
RF is reporting nominal carrier power, nominal symbol-to-noise ratio for the telemetry. RF is nominal.
Copy that, RF nominal.
Mom, this is Autonomy on Pluto 1.
Go ahead, autonomy.
Autonomy is very happy to report nominal status. No rules have fired.
That was big.
Mom, this is awesome. On Pluto 1.
Go ahead, CNDH.
CNDH reports nominal status. Our SSR pointers are where we expect them to be, which means we've recorded the expected amount of data.
Oh my God.
Copy that. Looks like we have a good data record.
Mom, this is GNC on Pluto 1.
Go ahead, GNC.
GNC is nominal, all hardware is healthy, and we have a good number of thruster counts.
Copy that. GNC is healthy.
Mom, this is Propulsion on Pluto 1.
Go ahead, prop.
Propulsion is nominal. Tank pressure is 176.8.
Copy that. Propulsion system is nominal.
Mom, this is Power on Pluto 1.
Go ahead, power.
Power system, all telemetry is nominal. Hardware is healthy.
Copy that. Nominal for power.
Mom, this is Thermal on Pluto 1.
Go ahead, thermal.
Thermal reports nominal, all temperatures green.
Copy that. Thermal is nominal. All temperatures green. Okay. PI, Mom on Pluto 1. We have a healthy spacecraft. We've recorded data of the Pluto system, and we're outbound for Pluto.
Yeah, that's it.
UHT and the center hole on the E-flow electronics. Is that all right? Sure.
Yes. You need it? Just a second.
Those hooks weren't designed for new bags.
No, they didn't want to leave it in there.
Okay, Jack, they don't want it there. All right.
PI says it has to come out flat.
Pull it out. Okay, good. I'll get it right now. Okay, thank you. What's the alignment, as you said? Yep. I sort of thought you might like it out of there. Let's stay away so I don't get a cable and I don't get dust in the mirror. The alignment is still good. Okay. Now if I can get it out. Okay, I'm going back to the rim. Okay, Bob, the alignment's good on the heat flow and I've got the UHT out. Jack, you need this? You better save it. I'm going to leave it right here by the L step. Save it. Careful. Gee, man, I just threw it right here in this little ditch. Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
Okay, the other
Just a little warning here. We want to make sure that they verify they have the gnome on with it when they leave the LSEP site.
For the sampler.
Okay, I thought I already heard that one. UHT
You got one. That's all right. Get it on it.
Okay, we gather you're on the way back to the limb with the core stems there, Jack.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Capcom, can you verify they have the gnome on?
Okay, Bob. I'm going to take the TV away from you and get these battery covers squared away before I put the togs and the camera on.
Okay, Gino, and you guys have the gnome on in the little quiver, right?
Yes, sir. The temperature on the batteries are 96 and 110.
Okay, thank you.
Can I close the covers?
Roger.
Can I close the covers?
Roger.
Hey, you're turning our voice around, Bob.
No, I said...
We're getting a repeat.
I said close the covers, please.
That's right. I heard what you said, but you're turning our voice around.
Network flight.
Flight network.
Did you copy what the crew said? They're hearing their own transmission, he said.
Roger. Pop. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. No, May. May's the month. May, that's right. May is the year of the month. When, much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes.
Sorry about that, guys, but today may be
Okay,
December.
the battery covers. Okay, Bob, the battery covers are closed. I'm going to go mode switch 1. I guess I'll just wave goodbye. You look pretty clean, so I won't touch you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, man, it's even hard to move you counterclockwise. Here we go. Counterclockwise, facing aft. Okay, I'm going to go mode switch number 1. Stand by, let me put away my little push button. Yeah, we're all taking pictures of everybody taking pictures.
Yeah, you want to retrieve the sample?
Right, that's a good idea.
And Gumdrop, you'll be getting a warning on your H2 tank in about 4 minutes.
Why don't you lean over here again? I'd sure like to get a picture of that whole scene.
Okay, coming over.
Gumdrop, you'll be getting a warning in about 4 minutes on your H2 tank. No sweat.
Those window marks are all over there.
Yeah.
Gumdrop, this is Houston. You may be getting a warning on your H2 tank. No problem.
Okay, you ready for...
Okay, you ready?
Thermal sample too?
Ready.
Second, Dave, let me get around here where I can get a picture too. Okay.
Gumdrop, Houston.
all these marks all over the window. Shoot, oh dear.
Gum drop, Houston.
Hey, Dave. Okay. Are you ready for the scene? Now use your head when you're out there. You know, this isn't a contest between you and that sample. All right.
Gum drop, Houston. Anticipate a warning very soon on your H2 tank.
Okay, and you want to hook it in the solid ring, David, rather than that wire. Okay.
You get me 3 up.
No problem. Okay. There's one. It didn't even close on itself. Okay, now you gotta pull those straight up, and there's one more little hook. Okay, now next one. Whoa! How about that? That's a thermal sample. Yeah, you're getting it wrapped up around your neck. Now give me two. Okay.
Gum drop, do you reach Houston?
Okay.
Gum drop, do you read Houston?
Schweiker's heart rate 77.
It's one place that's not too hard to recognize. Yeah, that's true. Let's switch hands with the camera. Now the winds look pretty strong. A lot of clouds. Flags in there. That's right. The red, white, and blue from up here. Houston, how are you reading Red Rover here?
Roger, reading you loud and clear here, Houston. How do you read me?
Wonder why they're not talking to us.
Spider, gum drop, this is Houston. How do you read?
Spider, are you reading Houston? No, I haven't heard him say anything either. Houston, Spider, you read?
Raj, Spider, this is Houston.
I heard him then.
Spider, this is Houston. How do you read?
Houston, Spider, do you read?
That's affirmative, Spider. This is Houston, reading you loud and clear.
Okay, Rusty, why don't you pass the camera back in here and work on the handrails up there for just a minute. Could you stand by one? Change film packs here. Okay, here comes the camera. Hey, just a minute, let me get this other one zipped in. Yeah. Take it easy out there, I don't want you getting, okay, so sorry. Hey, Rusty? Yes, sir. Stand by. Oh, I'm not going to start yet. I got to pass this camera back in. Take your time. Ooh, that sun's really bright.
MS-10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. We have liftoff. All teams, triage alerts, please. FC2, please prepare for section 35. OSC, FC1, LVN.
T plus 30 seconds, Starship 10 has liftoff. It's headed to 10 kilometers on its test flight from Boca Chica in Cameron County, Texas. Coming up on T plus 2 minutes, we're getting ready to transition from 3 engines to 2 engines firing on Starship. We'll be shutting 1 engine off. That's intentional. T plus 3 minutes and counting. Starship coming up on 8 kilometers altitude. We're getting ready to shut down the 2nd engine. This is intentional. I'm clear. Oh, very nice, very nice. Okay, now to switch over to the header tank for the 1 engine. Okay, I'm going to come back up when we hit 10 kilometers right about in 3 seconds. Coming up on T plus 4 minutes, we're at 10 kilometers. We've gone into the hover. We're still being powered by the single Raptor engine. T plus 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Starship has transitioned. It's flipped to the horizontal mode, beginning the descent back to the landing zone. Coming up on 5 minutes, 45 seconds, we're down below 2 kilometers. We're preparing to light 3 Raptor engines to begin the flip sequence. It'll culminate with landing on the landing pad in Boca Chica. Third time's a charm, as the saying goes. We've had a successful soft touchdown on the landing pad. That's capping a beautiful test flight of Starship 10. As a reminder, the key point of today's test flight was to gather the data on controlling the vehicle while re-entering, and we were successful in doing so. We had a nominal ascent. We had the maneuver to place Starship horizontal when we reached 10 kilometers, right on time. And then during the subsonic entry, it appears we had good control of the vehicle using the front and aft flaps. And as we approached the landing pad, we successfully lit the 3 Raptor engines to perform that flip maneuver. And then we shut down 2 of them and landed on the single engine as planned, a beautiful soft landing of Starship on the landing pad at Boca Chica. Also, a congratulations to the Starship team in Texas. They've steadily increased the test launch cadence over the course of the program and have delivered some of the most exciting test flights many of us have seen in a long time. The Texas team has several more suborbital test vehicles in build, with number 11 ready to roll out to the pad in the very near future. It's an inspiring time for the future of human spaceflight. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you'll join us for the next test flight of Starship 11.
We have a sequence of footage now that are drawn from both the EVAs, interspersed. We won't distinguish between the two, but try to give you a flavor for what it was like. Rick says right at sunrise we went out. Dale's actually flying out here with Rick recording most of this on all sorts of film. About this time I thought that he should think twice about it, but Dale, go ahead and describe.
Joe had done this on flight day 5 and had proven that the MMU and the Stinger concept for capturing the satellite worked, in fact worked perfectly. And I essentially had just a lot of fun on flight day 7, knowing that it all worked. Took a big load off my mind. I flew out a little bit differently than Joe had. You might remember Joe commenting that the sun had bothered him. It was in his eyes during the last phase, and you'll see here in a minute that when the sun finally does come up, I was fortunate enough to use the orbiter's nose to shadow the sun. So my approach to the satellite, and you can see that the shadow of the nose of the orbiter now is on the satellite and on me, and so my docking was a little bit easier with that information that Joe had given me from the earlier EVA. MMUs perform flawlessly, as you heard us talk about from space, and this method of capturing the satellite certainly worked well. And
you can see the arm in the lower right corner of the picture, which was a position that Anna had put it in to assist in our station keeping task.
And notice that the people who brought that satellite to us left it in absolutely perfect position with regard to its rotation and lack of nutation, which we appreciated.
We can't emphasize that enough. The satellite originally was rotating 50 revolutions per minute, but was slowed down by ground controllers very painstakingly over many, many weeks' time, positioned and slowed down. And in the slowing, they left it still turning at a very, very regular rate. So it made our job absolutely easy as pie. Once docked, the procedure then was to use the MMU to stop the rotation. which was equally easy. You can see it's now quite stable, and the MMU pilot could then maneuver the satellite, turn it wherever we wanted it in such a way that Anna could grab the grapple fixture.
Yeah, this is a sequence from the first rendezvous, and it worked just like it did in the simulator, getting Joe commands to maneuver it such that I could see the end effector, the grapple target, and it went very well, very smoothly.
From an MMU crewman's point of view, it's interesting to see the large arm coming up right over your shoulder to suddenly grasp the satellite. This is a shot of Dale working on the satellite, the top end. In fact, he just removed the Omni antenna with some very fancy space equipment known as pruning shears.
That was about the last nominal portion of that first EVA. Here we see where we first learned as a group that the common bracket clamp, which Dale has in his hand, was not going to fit at the appropriate place, which was on the common bracket on the satellite.
Let's parenthetically emphasize that that was a very well-designed piece of equipment by folks here at JSC, and unfortunately we just didn't have the information available to us that would tell us that it would not fit.
And it's appropriate to add here that we had enough pre-planned contingency operations available to us that again had been developed not by us but by the whole team to carry us through, and we went to Plan B, as we called it at that point.
David was the keeper of Plan B. Dale and I had not the vaguest notion what it was, but we were confident that in his plans Dave could direct us. And the first step, he directed me to come off the Stinger, fly the MMU back to its storage place in the orbiter, and then prepare to hold the satellite at the antenna end while Dale worked on it. You get an idea of the flying qualities of the MMU here. It is as smooth as glass to fly. You just can put it wherever you want it, turn it as you want it. Interesting, you see here the reflection in my helmet of the bulkhead. You see the two windows through which the three other crewmen were working, or behind which they were working, and in fact here at the last you can even see the movie camera that Rick has pointed out the window taking this movie. The bright spot on the bulkhead is the light that we use to illuminate the work volume out in the payload bay during the nighttime passes.
About this point we said, well, you can see Dale working in the back, by the way. That's a good shot of him showing the teamwork involved, getting that foot restraint ready with some tool boards and so on, so that we can press on with the next task.
Meanwhile, Joe is getting ready to doff the manned maneuvering unit and go to put himself in the portable foot restraint, which is forward of where you could see there. And here he is now, and he's supposed to talk here, but I'm going to say first that this was not easy for Joseph. He worked very hard for a long time here, and both of the EVA crewmen worked very hard during this particular phase of it. We were all very concerned that this part went well, and fortunately it did.
You can see, though, that the satellite, although it weighs about 1,200 pounds, is only massive in orbit. It's not heavy, and you can move it to wherever it needs to be moved. The most difficult part was you could not tell really where you were putting it. And so we relied totally on directions from Dave most of the time, Anna occasionally, as to where it should be moved. And they would just say, over your head or more to the right. And we tried to be very careful that we were not moving it to a place where it would hit the side of the orbiter or a piece of equipment on the orbiter, lest it be damaged.
Joe's bringing the satellite back down into position for me to put the shower cap, as we called it, was a cover that we put over the nozzle such that small particles of, that were inside the rocket engine would not contaminate the payload bay. Here I've attached the adapter, that interface that will allow the satellite to go into the payload bay, onto the satellite, and I'm torquing down one of the 9 hard dock latches that we had to use in order to form a tight fit between the satellite and that adapter. Now Joe has handed the satellite and adapter combination to me. I'm holding it, and he's going to go around to get in position for us to berth the combination into the bay.
And it worked. It worked. There shows a photo of the two satellites and a little advertisement there.
The exploration of Mars by early mariners photographed about 10% of the surface in brief encounters as they flew past the planet. But it is Mariner 9 that explores all of Mars and reveals a planet beyond speculation. The intricate spacecraft, operating at a distance of over 100 million miles, is commanded by a complex system of men and machines on Earth. 6 mission experiments yield results that can be woven into a total picture of a planet. As the spacecraft orbits Mars, the density of the atmosphere is measured by radio waves as they pass through the atmosphere on their way to Earth. The thin Martian clouds are scanned in the infrared to determine if they are carbon dioxide or water. An infrared instrument continually measures the changes in surface temperatures, ranging from minus 150 degrees Fahrenheit on the night side to as high as 70 degrees at noon on the equator. The height of mountains, the depth of canyons, and the gases in the Martian atmosphere are measured by invisible radiation in the ultraviolet and infrared wavelengths. Analysis of subtle changes in the orbit of Mariner reveals that Mars has an odd bulging shape, and this shape is a new clue to its internal structure. 2 television cameras photograph and map the surface of Mars. In nearly a year of operation, they transmit more than 7,000 photographs. Of these, over 1,500 are specifically taken to ensure that the entire Martian surface will be mapped. The photographs are carefully matched, precisely positioned on a globe, and skillfully fitted together. This shadow on the surface of Mars is cast by one of its 2 moons, Phobos, only about 13 miles long. The second moon, Deimos, is even smaller. They are the darkest objects ever photographed in space. Primitive chunks of rock battered by meteoroids, their origin is unknown. This is the face of Mars, photographed by earlier mariners. Here, a visitor might think he was on our moon, that this planet too was unchanging and dead. But transported to the other face of Mars revealed by Mariner 9, he would see fresh evidence of a living, changing planet. The old craters here have been long since covered by immense flows of lava. Thin white clouds form and drift across the dark blue sky. In the distance, he would see the long, gentle slope of a great volcano. Intense small dust storms scour canyon walls into sharp ribs of ancient rock. Near the poles, he would see a great series of ancient terraces, each layer composed of a mixture of dust and snow deposited by the wind. Each took thousands of years to form. Each is an episode in the history of the planet.
We have a go for main engine start. 7, 6, 5. We have main engine start. We have a cutoff.
MPD, we have an RSL abort.
We have an abort by the onboard computers of the orbiter Discovery.
EPD verified the big monitor SRM ignition is safe. EPD verified it. Okay. Brake. DLS shows engine 1 not shut down. Okay, PLT. CSME, verify engine 1. Want to shut down engine 1? We do not show engine start on 1. OTC, CCME, I can verify post shutdown and engine 1. We show start prep engine 1. Okay, are all engines shut down? Can you verify that?
We can now verify all 3 engines have been shut down.
All engines shut down. We have red lights on engines 2 and 3 in the cockpit, none on 1. All right, CSME, verify engine 1 safe for APUs down. Yes, I can verify that. OTC, TPE, go for APU shutdown. Okay, DLT, performing the APU shutdown for the checklist.
Orbiter test conductor informing pilot coach to shut off the auxiliary power units, these which provide the hydraulic power to the orbiter.
Okay, you want the GBC-5 to home? Say again, OTC? Yeah, GBC-5 to home. Yep, it's in 102. Okay,
The launch team going through the process of safing vehicle systems and the launch pad to put everything back in a safe configuration. We have heard no word at this point as to what the reason for the main engine cutoff, what that reason was.
What about the GPCs? Okay, we can call GPCs up. Copy. Frank, this is PE. Yes, sir. I think we're okay now. Okay. Everything looks good.
Shuttle project engineer Gene Thomas reporting to the NASA test director that everything looks in good shape now, that the vehicle has been put back into a safe configuration.
Fuel station is still in work. It's proceeding normally. Okay, PLT, can you verify APU shutdown complete?
Right. Fuel complete.
Okay, copy that.
Fuel station complete.
Okay, copy.
Safing by the ground launch sequencer has been completed as we continue to safe vehicle and orbiter systems.
Looking down toward the experiment compartment or looking up toward the dome? Looking down on the experiments. Okay. It's good now. Joe's going to give you a little demonstration of, I don't know what, it's something extemporaneous. You'll notice, however, that we've been asked in the past that aren't you afraid of getting stuck in the middle of the workshop? Well, as you can see from what Pete and Joe are doing, one of the most difficult things to do is to get yourself stable without any rate, either pitch or translation in the middle of the workshop. He has allegedly demonstrated conservation of everything in that he's a closed system, and whatever he does, he winds up back where he started. Now he's a little conservation of angular momentum, which by flinging your limbs around, you can change your attitude. You've just advanced physics teaching by 20 years. I'm trying to look up through the, I'm in the wrong place. I should have been someplace else. I was trying to look up through the wardroom grid.
Okay, Houston, for the climax of our show, we're going to settle some old bets. We're going to have the Skylab 500. Have you got a pretty good picture of the dome now? Do you see about half the lockers?
That's a firm. We got them.
Okay, we're ready to roll. Couple freestyle maneuvers here. Difficulty of that one was a 1.6. It's a 2.2. You didn't get many points for that one. You gotta try it one more time, I think. That one was. That was a new one even on us. That's it. Anything in the forward or dome area that you guys wanted to see? Can we show you anything?
Story's wondering if you've gotten around to a handball game yet.
No, not yet. We haven't taken to throwing balls around. We've been doing this while we're waiting for one guy to finish shaving in the evening. We haven't had time to try the balls, the darts, or any of that other stuff.
Hey, that's beyond belief. We've just had offers from Ringman Brothers, Barnum and Paley, and Kubrick both if you can bring that show down to earth and do it.
We wish we could, I'll tell you. Now, I'll tell you one thing is that we do get around very well, but our biggest problem is when you're handling a lot of little pieces of gear, it's just sitting there thinking about what you're going to do with them. And Joe is showing you a couple other little things that we can handle our body real well. Everybody's adapted super well. We all got to talking about what's going to happen to us when we get back to Earth, because the first thing we're going to do is dive out of our bed in the morning and crash on the floor.
What copy? Hey, Pete, Deke was sitting here saying he thinks he's going to include crash helmets on Skylab 3.
You see, all three men had understood that certain gases ignite, and that the thermos flask permits you to store vast quantities of those gases safely in the frozen liquid form until you want to ignite them, at which point you take the top off the flask, the gases evaporate, you apply a light, and boom. Now, two gases do that better than any other, and it was Obert's assistant who put them together most efficiently. His name was Werner von Braun, and the two gases that he released from his particular version of a thermos flask, the one lying on its side behind me now, were hydrogen and oxygen. If you release those two gases into a confined space with a hole at the other end of it and mix them as you do so, and then set light to them, you get that. Destination, the moon or Moscow. The planets or Peking.
Ought to be there.
Houston, Atlantis, we have capture.
Copy capture. Copy capture. Stamping on, capture confirmed.
Starship,
Flight GNC, we're free drift and low C. Copy, free drift.
Yeah, you ought to see it from here.
We'd all like to. We're free drift station Mir. After 20 years, our spacecraft are docked in orbit again. Our new era of space exploration has begun. Atlantis, Houston, we show vestibule pressurization complete. And please coordinate with the Mir crew for the leak check.
Okay, Dave, we'll look at that. And Dave, just to update you, the Mir folks have opened their hatch, and they're in the process of removing the lights and the standoff cross target and that sort of stuff.
Copy, the Mir hatch is open. Concur. Say hi to Norm.
Houston, we think it's time to open the hatch. We're going to proceed if you agree.
We concur. We have a good image of you. Your go to open the shuttle hatch.
Okay, here goes.
A lot easier without gravity.
Port stage, engine arm basket. 99 Pro. Good lift off, automatic. Stable about 306. Hey, good smooth ride in. Roger, copy now.
Looking good, altitude 2,400 feet.
All look good at 30.
set, dude. Falcon, your go at 1 minute. Auto start, normal shutdown. Roger, auto start, normal shutdown. Both guidance systems are good, Dave. Okay, let's get up here. Almost sounds like the wind wrestling, doesn't it? Oh, what a view of the rail, huh? Older tracks coming down into it.
That music is from the CSM downlink.
Thanks, they're on the ball.
Network corrects that to say it's from the LEM downlink.
Right on profile. Falcon Houston, you're looking good at 3 minutes. Okay. 3. Well, the only thing unusual I noticed is the RCS oxidizer manifold pressure oscillates every time the jets fire. That's backing up to the inner. Copy. Ready?
Altitude 30,000 feet. Velocity 2,129 feet per second.
Falcon Houston, your go at 4.
$42,000 feet now.
Oh, radar lockup. 5 knots. All good. Falcon Houston, you're still looking good. Your pings is showing a slight radial error, but it's a little bit lower than nominal, but everything's go. Roger, understand. I'm on your radar. Lock on, huh? Yep. 1,000 to go. SNC 500. Okay.
Falcon Houston, trim eggs.
Roger, understand. Trim the eggs. In connection.
And Falcon Houston, trim in plane only.
Roger, in plane only on the eggs. Where'd it go? The arm is off. Okay, we'll shut down on the pings. Okay, auto shut down. The eggs, 500. Alarm. Eggs, master alarm.
Copy.
Yeah, we got a master alarm on the eggs, but we trimmed the eggs.
Okay, is your
Stand
trim?
by for a tweaker trim.
Okay.
That's a self-test, okay? Thing says it's in a 40.6 by 8.9.
Roger, we copy. Guidance still looks good to us.
This is Mercury Control. Astronaut Scott Carpenter has just reported that he has detected the buildup of the G-forces over re-entry. Just after that communication, we lost our contact with him, which we expected to do. As the spacecraft comes into the atmosphere, a layer of ionized air builds up around its outside and prevents transmission of radio signals. We are tracking the spacecraft, but are not receiving signals from him. This is Mercury Control.
That free fall, if properly damped, is not a serious matter. It's in the proper attitude, and at 21,000 feet, he automatically hits that drogue parachute to bring him safely back to the surface of the water. No reports yet from Mercury Control. We should have them any moment. Nothing doing now but wait. There should be a report.
This is Mercury Control. We are still attempting to reestablish contact with the Aurora 7 spacecraft. We expect to establish contact momentarily. This is Mercury Control standing by. We are beginning to receive indications that perhaps he is triggering his transmitter. We expect to reestablish contact with the Aurora 7 spacecraft momentarily.
He should be at the point now of ejecting that drogue chute, that small 6-foot chute that slows him down to 170 miles an hour. Let's go at 21,000 feet. We should be hearing from that shortly. There has been a delay in communications, apparently, though. We're standing by. The seconds tick off. Crowds at Grand Central in New York, around the United States. Wait prayerfully for this moment. Here's Powers.
Our data at this time indicates that it is distinctly possible that the Aurora 7 spacecraft may land considerably longer downrange than it was planned. Our present estimate of his landing point may go as far as 200 miles downrange. For that reason, we feel that his ionization period now is over, but he has exceeded the range of our transmission equipment here at Cape Canaveral. We are diverting aircraft into the area, both for the purpose of reestablishing communications and effecting a rescue operation. This is Mercury Control.
Well, that's the announcement, and that's a rather serious one to hear. We still don't know that he is safely through the atmospheric layer. We haven't had a transmission from him. There Perhaps there have been radar indications, and there must be radar indications that at least the capsule is all right if they have a predicted landing point at this point. So apparently the capsule did come through the atmosphere and the flame area all right. No communication, however. You heard Colonel Powers explain their theory as to why, that the impact point is 200 miles over the mark, beyond the Intrepid and its two destroyers. They have sent aircraft out now to begin to contact the astronaut. An aircraft of the type aboard the Intrepid could reach an area 200 miles away within perhaps 30 minutes, perhaps a little bit less than that, 25 minutes. It may be that long before we get any kind of a report on it. Here comes Colonel Powers again.
Pilot Scott Carpenter. We feel at this time, however, that it is out of our range of broadcast and are in the process of diverting aircraft into the area.
Still no communication from Scott Carpenter. The astronaut
have the capability for developing communications relay, as well as an SC-54 from the Air Force Air Rescue Service with a paramedic jump team aboard. This is Mercury Control.
Scott Carpenter completed his 3 orbits, began his reentry, and we have not heard from him now since he entered the atmosphere some 10 minutes ago. All of the communications services are on cleared channels, calling Aurora 7, calling for Aurora 7, but no answer as yet. Scott Carpenter had difficulties throughout this 3-orbit flight. First with the temperature in his suit, the first couple of orbits, and throughout with the supply of fuel in the capsule. Here comes an announcement from Mercury Control.
This is Mercury Control. We are still looking at establishing contact with the Aurora 7 spacecraft. On the basis of our computations at this time, we estimate the spacecraft has already landed, and we estimate that it has landed 200 miles long. We will not be able to confirm these times, however, until we get data. The aircraft, the nearest aircraft, is approximately 120 miles from the landing point of the spacecraft and is on the way to the scene at this time. It is an SC-54 Air Force rescue airplane with a team of paramedic rescue experts aboard. It is currently our plan to jump the rescue people on the scene near the spacecraft. This is Mercury Control.
There is still no communication with the capsule. The SC-54 should be, would seem, over that area, if our figures are correct, in approximately 40 minutes. About 35 minutes from now, would put us at about 1:25 p.m. our time. Meanwhile, on all radio channels, the attempt still to pick up a transmission from Scott Carpenter aboard the Aurora 7. With the USS Intrepid now, and Joe Campbell.
Here on the USS Intrepid, every face wears a frown. There's a great deal of concern for astronaut Carpenter, inasmuch as no contact has yet been reported from Cape Canaveral. Cameramen are folding up their gear. That is, Navy photographers. Some of the news media photographers are standing by in their position. The Marine helicopters have returned to the Intrepid, as have the Intrepid's own jet helicopters. But everywhere, as I said a moment ago, there is a look of disappointment as people fold up and go below. The ship itself is steaming at top speed toward the area where astronaut Carpenter is believed to be located at the moment. We could get there in about the same time as the other destroyers, but right now everybody's concern is for the astronaut. If other rescuers get there first, wonderful. This is Joe Campbell aboard the USS Intrepid, about 800 miles southeast of Cape Canaveral.
Here comes an announcement from Mercury Control.
According to all of the data that we can collect at this time, we estimate that the Aurora 7 spacecraft would have landed at approximately 12:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, some 200 miles farther downrange than the originally planned landing point. There is a rescue aircraft 120 miles away from the landing point and has been diverted and is on its way. We estimate at this time that it will take approximately 1 hour for the aircraft to get to the immediate scene of the landing. We will continue to make efforts to make radio contact with the Aurora 7 spacecraft. In addition, we will continue to analyze the situation and send rescue forces into the area. We are standing by in Mercury control at this time.
All communication channels are cleared, and every possible means is being made to contact the capsule, so far without success. We are simply standing by here with, unfortunately, nothing to report. Here comes an announcement from Mercury Control.
This is Mercury Control. In connection with our efforts to set up best possible search, location, and recovery operations, we have determined that the guided missile destroyer Farragut is also out in that area, not as a part of the Mercury recovery operation, but on its own operation. A message has been sent to the captain of the Farragut, directing him to proceed to the landing point at best possible speed. We do not have confirmation back from the Farragut as yet, but expect to have it shortly. This is Mercury Control.
So there's one other ship being mobilized in this all-out effort to reach Scott Carpenter and the Aurora 7. We have a very even more disturbing report, it seems, for this reporter here from NASA, from space authorities. They say they did not pick up any radar blips from the descending spacecraft. It almost beggars interpretation as to what that could mean. Whether they should have picked up radar blips if the spacecraft is as far as 200 miles away is something that experts will have to answer, and we're trying to get that answer for you. It seemed to this reporter that they should have. If the Aurora 7 spacecraft came safely through its atmospheric reentry, it would seem that even 200 miles would not be too far to pick up a radar signal, but perhaps that spacecraft is so small, perhaps the shaft that has to be released is not in that large a quantity. But at any rate, no radar signals were received according to the space officials. So there has not even been radar contact with the Aurora 7 since the last contact with Scott Carpenter by voice, which was that when he announced his G-forces building for the reentry into the atmosphere. As we said, this is the worst chore this reporter ever went through, trying to fill time when there is nothing to say except wait.
Liftoff of the Cassini spacecraft on a million-mile trek to Saturn. We have cleared the tower. Its program is in. All program is in.
In 2004, following a 7-year journey through the solar system, Cassini arrived at Saturn.
To the SOI burn attitude or pointing position and light up the rockets.
The spacecraft carried a passenger, the European Huygens probe, the first human-made object to land on a world in the distant outer solar system.
Huygens arrival on Saturn's moon Titan.
For over a decade, Cassini has shared the wonders of Saturn and its family of icy moons, taking us to astounding worlds where methane rivers run to a methane sea, where jets of ice and gas are blasting material into space from a liquid water ocean that might harbor the ingredients for life. And Saturn, a giant world ruled by raging storms and delicate harmonies of gravity. Now, Cassini has one last daring assignment. Cassini's grand finale is a brand new adventure. 22 dives through the space between Saturn and its rings. As it repeatedly braves this unexplored region, Cassini seeks new insights about the origins of the rings and the nature of the planet's interior, closer to Saturn than ever before. On the final orbit, Cassini will plunge into Saturn, fighting to keep its antenna pointed at Earth as it transmits its farewell. In the skies of Saturn, the journey ends, as Cassini becomes part of the planet itself.
Systems ACS-1, we just had transition to high rate mode, and we are in the atmosphere.
Radio signal still holding. 30 seconds.
Spacecraft has just crossed 10 degrees north latitude, altitude 1,000 miles.
Copy, thank you.
Okay, we call loss of signal at 115546.
Just heard the signal from the spacecraft is gone, and within the next 45 seconds, so will be the spacecraft. I hope you're all as deeply proud of this amazing accomplishment. Congratulations to you all. This has been an incredible mission, an incredible spacecraft, and you're all an incredible team. I'm going to call this the end of mission. Project manager off the net.
Well, we're here to discuss a magnificent mission that had an amazing end. There it is. This is Cassini. Next picture. This is also Cassini. Yes.
When I look back over the Cassini mission, I see a mission that was running a 13-year marathon of scientific discovery. And this last orbit was just the last lap. And so we stood in celebration of successfully completing the race.
Not an end, but really a beginning. And the discoveries that Cassini has made over the past 13 years in orbit have rewritten the textbooks of Saturn, have discovered worlds that could be habitable, and have guaranteed that we will return to that ringed world.
This is a look from Robinson's helmet-mounted wireless camera.
In Houston, while we wait, I'm viewing another damage. It's just a chipped tile on the aft starboard edge of the nose gear door, of the starboard nose gear door. Actually, it's a chip about 3 inches wide, and it covers 2 tiles, and it's right on the aft edge of it.
We copy that, Steve. We've already looked at that.
Very good.
Your wireless video dropped out for a while there, so we expect that we may be losing it shortly.
I think when I get closer, you will, yeah.
And Soichi, we can see you out there. Nice position.
Yeah, this is best positioning. Keep going, Vegas. Continue. Keep it coming. Continue. Good motion. 3, 2, 1. Stop motion, set brakes.
Motion stop. Mind you to use less than 5 to 10 pounds of force. Let us know if more force is required, and if you do succeed in pulling it out, GCA the arm away prior to putting it in your trash bag. Do you have WVF? We do. If you could turn your head to the right a little bit, that's better. Thank you. Okay. Okay, it's yours. Our brakes set? The brakes are on. You're a go. Okay, I'm grasping it, and I'm pulling. It's coming out very easily. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay, Steve, GCA the arm back away. Okay, away from my body. I'd like to move body back by 5 feet, please. Okay, brakes are coming off, and we will move aft away from structure. I'd say that was 1.5 pounds of force. Still no motion yet. Steve, stand by. We're going into mode.
So at 7:45 a.m. Central Time, spacewalker Steve Robinson reported he was able to easily remove the first of 2 gap fillers between tiles on the underside of the Shuttle Discovery. Reported it only took about 1.5 pounds of force to pull it out with his fingers.
Okay, Steve, we are slowly backing you away. Ready.
As you look from the helmet camera on Robinson, you can see the gap filler in his fingertips.
I get some clearance.
These gap fillers are thin, stiff fabric.
Okay, good motion away from the orbiter.
That resembles in some ways a flat paint sample from a hardware store.
Maybe you have to be an old aerodynamicist like me, but the surface of this belly is just a work of art. Okay, that's 4.5 Vegas. Okay, Steve, we are prepared for the GCA to the other side. Stand by. Okay, back to me in Vegas. Vegas, I would like to go body right 3 feet towards my feet.
This view from Soichi Noguchi's helmet camera as he looks down on his fellow spacewalker underneath the Shuttle Discovery.
Correct. Inward.
These views coming to us from Robinson's helmet-mounted camera.
3, 2, 1, stop the motion.
Stop the motion, standing by brakes.
Steve, are you ready for brakes? I'm ready for brakes.
Brakes are on your go from M2.
Thank you. Here we go. Play watching. Nicely done, Steve. Back to you to GCA away from there. Okay, I'd like to move away from the orbiter, body aft, 5 feet, please.
Body aft, and we're taking the brakes off and going back into mode. It'll be about 30 seconds here.
Sounds great. Okay, that came out very easily, probably even less force. It looks like this big patient is cured. Copy that.
Okay, Steve, we're moving you body aft about 5 feet.
Sounds good. And then I'll get the camera out, depending on what Houston wants.
The second piece of gap filler removed at 7:55 a.m. Central Time as the shuttle and Steve Robinson floated overhead of the coast of France at 222 miles up. These helmet-mounted camera views showing clearly the gap filler he's removed in his fingertips there. The red coloring on there is the adhesive that's used to stick those gap fillers in between the tiles.
Going up? Am I clear? You're clear, babe. Go. Okay. Up, diggity dog. Okay, can you see him? He's out. Roger. Am I on the tube? That's affirmative. Okay. Outstanding quality picture, Ron.
Give me a wave.
Affirmative.
Okay. Beautiful. Hey, the paint on here is just, it's a silver paint. And it's just little blisters on it, so you can kind of peel it off with your finger. Yeah, it rolled off the other way. Yeah, I can see the moon back behind me. Beautiful. The moon is down there to the right. Full moon. And off to the left, just outside the hatch down here, is a crescent Earth. Maybe I can get a picture of that, the Earth coming back in there. But the crescent Earth is not like a crescent moon. It's got kind of like horns, and the horns go all the way around, and it makes almost 3/4 of a circle. Hey, that last mapping camera retrack must have worked because the door's closed, everything's closed on it.
Okay, Ron, you did get the camera, right? The back on?
Yeah, back's working.
Okay, you're going to transfer to Sim Bay and get the foot restraint.
Okay, here's a piece of the thermal blanket from the sim door shut. Hey, Houston. They were just kind of laying there underneath the EVA handle.
Roger, we see it. Confirm.
Hey, pretty stable right here. You let go with both hands. See?
Roger, we see you waving.
Hey, this is great. Talk about being a spaceman. This is it. Okay, back to work. And it creates a torque. When I let go of that pocket there, I let go with a little bit of a force, and the force has a tendency to throw your feet way up in the air.
Keep talking, Ron. I'm walking that one with you.
Okay. Coming right back. Now my feet are bouncing up in the air again. Shouldn't be any. Yeah, can you do it? Now. Now if I don't hit the ends and bounce up again. Yeah. See, you twist yourself down there, and then you're going to twist to stop, or it hits the end. You hit there and you bounce back up in the air again. Okay, there comes some of the paint. We'll get that thing on there before I take mine off. Okay. Comes the old cassette. Yeah. That close enough, Jack? You want a little closer?
And it's a white class, and it's about. Oh man! Look at that! Look at the glint! Almost see twinning in there. Guess what we just found? Guess what we just found? I think we found what we came for. Crystal and rock, huh? Yes, sir. You better believe it.
Yep, sir.
Pledge in there. Almost all pledge. She likes it. As a matter of fact. Oh boy, I think we might have ourselves something close to the northosite, because it's crystalline and there's just a bunch of just almost all pledge. What a beaut. That is really a beauty, and there's another one down there. Yeah, we'll get some of these.
Bag it up.
Beautiful. Hey, let me get some of that clod there. No, let's don't make some. Let's make this a special one. I'll zip it up. Okay.
Make this bag number 196 a special bag.
Yes, sir.
The first one. Don't lose your bag now, Jim. Oh, boy. Okay, now let's get some of the other, maybe, let me take a picture first. Here. I got it, no sweat. Now, we got to think of how to get that other piece there. Maybe if you could put your scoop in it and break off a chip, you think? Well, I think it's just a claw, don't you? I don't know, try it. Put your scoop there in the middle and break off a chip. Yeah. It's not a clod, is it? Yeah, it is a clod. Yeah. Want to take this piece here? Yeah, let me get you a bag. Wait, let me take a picture first so you know which one we got. Okay, go ahead. Number 170.
Roger, 170. Roger, 170. And David, Jim, are you working on the outside of the crater, or are you over the lip right now?
Oh, just a tad over the lip on a little bench, but it's... Dave, did you hold that one? I don't know whether it'll fit in the bag or not. Got it? Nope. It dropped. See if you can pick it up again. I think it'll fit in the bag, Joe. So frangible. Yeah, it really is. I think I can get it with the tongs. Here. Yeah. Because the contact is sort of on there. We ought to try and get the contact if we can. Okay, babe. Open the bag. Okay, I got it.
Any mission this complex and with this kind of job, you notice Ox didn't have any coning on the SYNCOM. He had a lot of practice as we were getting ready for it. While we were on orbit, while we were in zero gravity, Fish is getting the SYNCOM simulator treatment. The last push-off, you'll notice, we didn't get any coning on SYNCOM, but he got a little coning on Fish on this last one into the wall there. Mission this complex requires strict discipline, and fortunately we had a well-disciplined crew. Of course, you know, you take 4 guys off the farm, some of them are able to respond a little quicker and learn a little faster than others to military movements, and some guys just never learn.
That's crazy.
I'm not doing
any more parades.
We did have a drill team, crack drill team here that we practiced every morning. Zero gravity's got to be fun. If you hadn't noticed or picked up on it by now, it just is a great deal of fun. And while we were airborne, we took off with 5 guys, and we picked up a 6th crew member on board and decided that the only fair thing to do was to include him in a crew portrait. So we piled around this guy.
I'll let Rick describe what we're doing here.
Well, at the risk of endorsing a product, that's an interesting physical demonstration on orbit of the fact that things really are weightless.
That's how the crew was rewarded when we did something properly. Rick would release another handful.
Since Anna did more things right than anybody, she got most of them.
Dave on orbit described Dr. Allen as large in personality but diminutive in stature. Whenever his personality got a little bit too large, we would stuff him away in a locker for a few hours, and then when a task needed to be done, it was my job to go down and get him out. This was a somewhat unpleasant task for me, but Joe seemed to like the freedom at times. And
the hard part was putting him back in there again later once we got him.
This was done primarily to make some educational footage, which we can use and distribute to science teachers throughout the country. Here, Bo forgot to spin the gyroscope up, and somehow it just didn't stay stable. So we're going to give him another chance, and here he's going to get it spinning. There we go. Of course, the principle of gyroscopic stability has been around a long time. We use it for navigation. Our satellites use it when they come out of the cargo bay. But of course, without gravity and just being able to float it free here, you can study the behavior of the gyroscope and watch the way it moves around in a way that we never get a chance to do in laboratories on the Earth. I'm sure all of you have held a gyroscope on a string or on your fingers, and after a while, as it spins down, the force of gravity starts to torque it, and it starts to process around. Of course, that never happens in zero gravity. You can keep playing with it almost up to the moment where it is not spinning at all, and it still stays stable. In fact, it was just a constant source of fascination, all the different things you could do with these very ordinary devices. This is a little magnetic wheelo that I'm using. Normally on the Earth, you start this with gravity. I found it was pretty easy to start it up using centrifugal force. This one, as long as I was holding it, behaved pretty much the way it did on the Earth. But as soon as you let it go, then it does all sorts of neat things. And here comes Mr. Yo-Yo. I've had a lot of discussions with physicist friends of mine about whether the yo-yo was going to work, and it worked fabulous. You could do it fast, you could do it slow, you could do it to the ceiling. That's the famous oi-oi. Dave did flying saucers around the moon. He's a real champ, and if they don't let him into the Yo-Yo Association of America, there's just no justice in the world. putting the jacks here, there was constant danger of massive explosions if the ball came back in the wrong place. We managed to go through without ever losing the jacks, and although it's not on film, Ray did manage to do her 12sies by the end of the flight. If you let a paper airplane just float, it's pretty much carried away by the air currents in the shuttle, as you see here. And so it really doesn't take very much force just to start it on the most beautiful flight that you've ever seen of any paper glider.
Hope you like our home movies so far. The paddle ball behaved a lot like it does on Earth in that you can paddle it in nearly any direction if you're clever enough. I'm not sure I am clever enough to keep it going in each direction. And, as you can see here, so the ins and outs, ups and downs were about the same. It's a little harder to do, let's see, to do this trick on Earth. The straightforward sort of paddle ball operation is much slower and it's much easier. This one is a little tougher. Jeff has here some magnetic marbles. I'm not sure how you shoot marbles in space because it's a little hard to keep them in that ring. But your shooter seems to work fine. It joins right up with them all. And it forms into a toroid, as you might expect, with the magnetic lines and the magnetism that's inherent in the marbles. If you watch carefully now, on not this one, but the one after this, as Jeff sails the marble past after he repositions his ring here with its little tail, and relative to the horizontal lines on the bulkhead behind him, watch what this marble does. See it curve upward as the magnetic lines of force pass by the others. And here's our unofficial mascot. You might say he flipped out over this. Rat stuff really had it. The slinky, without the sag that you have to contend with in 1G, behaved pretty much the same as it does in 1G. You can start to see that, of course, they've set up a sine wave oscillation here, which continues to be reflected back and forth, and now a double one or perhaps a triple, and perhaps within there you can also see the standing waves reflected back and forth. The centrifugal force, of course, keeps this little car going around its track. On Earth, when it gets to the top, it would, of course, fall out. In space, what do you expect it's going to do? Well, with a little help from the doctor, sure enough, it falls out.
Had to be done before breakfast, which was really tough.
Now here I'm going to spin that stuff down, separate the cells from the plasma, and then put it in the freezer.
The centrifuge got more work out than just spinning up blood.
Story's not only an MD with a great bedside manner, but he's also a hotshot pilot, and this shows him flying the centrifuge in 0G. And 0G, it's indescribable what fun it is once you get used to it, but little devices like this, you can illustrate the principles of gyroscopic motion and things like that. It was just incredible.
I thought he was practicing to be a guru there.
I was looking for something to stabilize me most of the time.
Here's our commander. He was really fantastic, had some unique talents, and here he is demonstrating one, putting his pants on 2 legs at one time.
This is now.
Here's our guru here. This is Story doing his...
Demonstrating what happens if you ever drop a cat. It always ends up on its 4 feet, no matter what attitude, and that's...
We've had a lot of discussions about how this works, how you can move around. He's not shoveling the air. It's actually, he's
You want me to do it here?
The one on the right, of course, is a magnet, and the one on the left is just a pencil, and we had no idea they were going to decide to mate.
We're still waiting the results of that.
Gordo practicing his landing technique, get ready for re-entry. Looks like we're lost in space there.
That's right. Well, we get up in the morning and, you know, brush our teeth and comb our hair and the rest of that stuff here.
Some of the crew equipment we had was limited, so we had to share it.
You're not allowed to laugh.
This sequence we call Hair Wars.
As you look above your head at all the volume that's being wasted in here in 0G, we'd have all tables everywhere.
And now this final bit of the film is our version of a quiz. It is rumored there were 7 people on this flight, but we challenge you to count the crew members. Don't quit yet. Keep counting. The other way of getting 7 people on board is to keep them moving.
Nobody holds still. Commander was obviously out of control again.
Here, Steve and I were demonstrating some of the physics of the Frisbee deploy that we talked about with CENTCOM. Steve thought this up, got a filter off of our hatch window, and we labeled it CENTCOM, and we floated it there in 0G, and Steve gave it a tap just like the spring did on the real CENTCOM, and you see that it translates and rotates straight up, just exactly like the real spacecraft, proving that the physics of a Frisbee are the same in zero gravity as they are here on Earth.
Второй полет Светлана Савицкая совершила в июле 1984-го бортинженером корабля «Союз Т-12» и станции «Салют-7» вместе с Владимиром Джанибековым и Игорем Волком. Владимир Джанибеков и Светлана Савицкая провели испытания специальных инструментов для работы с металлами в безвоздушном пространстве и выполнили сварку.
Так, начинаем варить.
3 прихода. Не торопясь, Света. Не торопясь.
Не спеша. Поперек вожу, есть ванночка металла прямо идет.
Эксперименты, которые мы проводили, очень интересны, на наш взгляд, очень важны в будущем не только нашей советской отечественной космонавтики, но и в истории космонавтики вообще.
Наша работа по выходу с Владимиром Александровичем прошла успешно.
Савицкая первая в мире женщина, совершившая выход в открытый космос. — 29 июля 1984-го экипаж благополучно вернулся на Землю.
Yeah, the question is, can I talk about the tile damage that I saw on STS-27? Now, this never made the news very much, I think because we were a top-secret classified mission. But on the second day of the flight, after we had dropped off our major new intelligence satellite, Mission Control called us and said, hey guys, we saw something hit your right wing during launch. Does this sound like Columbia? Yeah, it sounds just like what happened to Columbia. We saw something hit your right wing, and we want you to take a look with the robot arm that has a TV camera on the end of it. Take a look at your right wing and tell us what you see. And I'll never forget when we positioned the arm and brought up the view on the camera, to myself, I said, we are gonna die. Turned out we had 707 damaged tiles on the right wing. We couldn't see it from the angle that we were, but we had lost one tile entirely on the underside. And so we asked, well, we told Mission Control, well, hey, Houston, we're seeing a lot of damage on the right wing. Well, Department of Defense, because this was such a highly classified mission, didn't want any television coming down at all. And they finally relented and said, okay, we'll let them send encrypted television down. So we sent encrypted TV down. Well, encrypted TV, it shoots a frame, Takes about 3 seconds to encrypt it and send it. Another frame, 3 seconds, another frame. So the resolution that they saw on the ground was so poor that they looked at it and they said, well, Hoot's a dummy. That's not tile damage. These are just lights and shadows that he's seeing. What are they forgetting? They're forgetting that on board, I am not looking at encrypted TV. I'm looking at clear TV on board. So we had a magnificent failure to communicate on the part of Mission Control. They never came back and said to me, we don't think you're seeing tile damage. We think you're just seeing lights and shadows. Because at that point, I would have said, okay, I'm sending you clear TV. They never came back and said that. What they came back with was, after about a day of analyzing it, they came back and they said, okay, Hoot, it's no problem, just re-enter like usual. And I keyed the mic and I said, Dave Hilmers was the Capcom. And I said, Dave, what are they basing this on? And he said, stand by, because he had to get the answer to that question. And he came back and he said, Hoot, it's no worse than what we've seen on any other mission. And I'm sitting there going, so I keyed the mic and I said, well, Dave, you know, I've been here since before STS-1, and I have never seen anything like this before. And then I acquiesced, which I shouldn't have done. I said, okay, but you guys are the experts, so okay. But I didn't believe it. The night before re-entry, I remember one of the astronauts was talking about how he was a little bit more than nervous about this re-entry tomorrow. And I said to him, oh, come on, don't feel that way. No use dying all tensed up. So all the way down during re-entry, I'm watching the flight controls, because I knew what I'd see, which was what we saw in the case of Columbia. If we started to burn through on the right wing, then we would see the left elevon going down to create more drag on that side to make up for it, the right elevon going up, and if I saw that during the re-entry, I figured I probably have 30 seconds to tell Mission Control what I think. And so in the audio tape that I have of our re-entry, about every 2 minutes, I would announce to the crew, okay, the controls look good. All the way down, I was reading off what the flight controls were. We got on the ground, and they looked at it, and they went, holy smokes, why didn't you guys tell us about this? And so I asked the lead flight director, the ascent and entry flight director in our debrief, I said, well, Gary, what if you guys had believed us? What could we have done about it? And he said, I don't know. So anyway, that's the way it stood all the way up to Columbia. And of course, we lost Columbia for just about exactly the same thing.
Without sounding super patriotic or chauvinistic, maybe this is the day for that even. I think we can safely say that in all aspects of space exploration, manned space and unmanned space flight, the United States is now, as of this moment at any rate, in the lead. We have done more in the 3 major space races now than have the Soviets. We have, in the race in pure scientific research, put up far more scientific satellites than have they. In the matter of practical applications in space, we have done far more with our communications and weather and other satellites, including the unfortunately nicknamed Spy in the Sky, SAMOS, which takes pictures of the ground around the world. And now in manned space flight, although still behind in the size of the capsules, the spacecraft we can put up, we're putting more sophisticated spacecraft up than they are, true spacecraft that can maneuver. We proved it today. They can maneuver and meet up in space. The biggest step forward since the first man went out there. And I think that, well, I was about to say that I think that all of us in the space who have been covering space are particularly glad that one Wally Schirra could have a part in this historic day. He's a favorite of all of ours, and in a moment I'm going to ask Chuck Van Fremd, who's down in Houston and an old-timer in this space coverage, to talk about it, Wally, with me. But right now, Paul Haney at Houston.
Read
shots. We are estimating here that Sharon Stafford used 175 pounds of fuel to complete that rendezvous. That's a figure from the terminal phase initiation point on into the actual rendezvous point, some 6 to 10 feet apart. We show spacecraft 6 with 365 pounds of fuel remaining. I'll emphasize that that is a very conservative usage of fuel to achieve what those two achieved in at last 130 degrees from the southern tip of Africa to a point out over the western Pacific. We were prepared to expend at least twice that much in order to conduct that rendezvous attempt. Here now is some tape conversation of the two talking to each other, occasionally talking to the Rose Knot Victor off the south coast, off the coast of South America.
Houston Flight RKV, voice check.
Go ahead.
Roger.
What'd you say?
I was just having a voice check.
Roger, read you loud and clear. How me?
Loud and clear.
Roger, RKV.
Gemini 7 RKV. Go ahead, RKV. Gemini 7. Roger, we'd like you to bring stack 2C back on the line. Come on. Back on. Roger.
Did you get an open circuit voltage before they turn it on, please?
Looks like it's about the same shape as the rest of it. Took it off. Roger, what was your open circuit voltage before you turned it back on? 31.5 volts. Say again?
31.5
volts. Roger. What are you reading now? That's 2C current. 2C current is reading about 6 amps and closed circuit voltage is around 25. Roger. We're reading 5.5 on 2C. Say again, Gemini 7. We have company tonight. You sure do. We'd like to know how you can see the arc lights on 6. These are the arc lights.
Did they see the dock light?
Did you want? Right, yeah. We picked you up on it with a sun reflects off your Doctor.
TBS News color coverage of Gemini 6 and Gemini 7 will continue in a moment.
Now we are backing away from 7. This is our separation maneuver of 9 feet per second. I think this is one of the most dramatic strips of this whole flight. You'll see the spacecraft 6 go over the horizon into what amounts to a sunset. There should be a corny line there. I'd rather not use one. The half moon that you see there on their side, the sun is to the south of us. We have a picture similar to this where the half moon is on the other side. We're taking a picture of 7. We separated at about 9 feet per second. Now you can see the horizon coming into view, and you can see a spectacular sunset develop from this particular shot. Now, if you'll watch carefully, the spacecraft will just disappear. That is the terminator where the sun basically is eclipsed by the Earth and the sunlight cannot illuminate the spacecraft. I'm amazed that Jim continued taking pictures of sunsets. They must have seen quite a few by this time. You may notice the banding and the aerosol layers on the horizon.
The final grapple and proximity operations were done at night. You could see it starting to get darker there, but the orbiter payload bays and the cameras we have allow us to light it up so that we can see it well. We ended up bringing it down in the payload bay and then station keeping on it for what Nancy and I call the longest 17 minutes of our life, having Zarya about 2.5 to 3 feet from the end effector and keeping it still there.
This is a view from the end of the robotic arm and the camera located on it, and this view is now actually from the Russian module Zarya looking down on the arm as it comes into grapple. We actually didn't have that view in the cockpit, and so it was quite a unique experience to know that the ground was looking over our shoulder literally as we came in for the grapple. So we brought it down right over that grapple fixture, that long pin, and closed the snares that you saw in the earlier version to attain the grapple and rigidization process required to maneuver Zarya around. We were very, very happy after we had grappled this 45,000-pound free flyer after Bob had literally flown formation with it at Mach 25. And then it was time to install Zarya on top of Unity. Again, we were operating almost at the limit of the robotic arm because the Unity module extended about 40 feet out of the payload bay, and so the arm was almost fully extended as we brought Zarya up and over Unity into the install position. We actually couldn't see the mating surface where it was going to mate, so we had to use cameras alone. This is the elbow camera view. And again, we fired the thrusters to attain that capture sequence with the androgynous positioning mechanism.
Cleaning up the payload bay.
At this point of the flight, we had a space station that was ready to go inside, and we began our first day of docked operations with actual ingress into the space station. And what a highlight of the mission to see everybody's hard work come to fruition. Been a long time coming, but to go inside the space station for the first time was really exciting. Here we are opening the hatch, going from the orbiter docking station on into the pressurized mating adapter 2, kind of like the front porch of the space station here, and then opening the main hatch into Unity. And Zarya means sunrise in Russian, and of course Unity is binding us all together. It's the connecting piece which holds all the other modules from the space station. It was a very bright, roomy, and nice place to be. It was quite a sequence to go through all the checks that we had to before making sure it was safe that we could open the hatch, making sure the pressure was correct on both sides. After progressing on, we went through PMA-1 into the first compartment of the FGB of Zarya, and then opening the hatch into the main compartment of Zarya. The purpose of the FGB is to provide the initial electrical power and flight control for the early stages of the space station. Here we are all inside Zarya for the very first conference from the space station. Sergei Krikalev, our Russian crew member, will actually be going up to live on the space station with Bill Shepard and Yuri Gudzinko, and he's checking out his new home here, future home. Sergei has over a year's spaceflight experience on the Mir space station, and as you can see, he readily adapted to microgravity and being home on this module. Watch how effortlessly he translates down to the other end. Very nice place to be, more of a corridor than anything else, not meant for living. Here we are with the early communication system. Jim and Jerry installed the antennas on the outside, and then Jerry and I installed the boxes inside.
The Zarya had 6 batteries, one of which was not operating fully after the launch, which was 2 weeks prior to the launch of Endeavour, and so they had the opportunity to send over a replacement unit that Sergey and I removed and replaced, and an hour later it was up and functioning. So we felt very good about that, and it's another testament to having human beings in space to fix things and get things operating again. We also had to remove a lot of structural panels and bolts that were put in specifically so that the modules could withstand the loads at launch. And we wanted to remove those to make accessibility behind the panels easier. So we ended up bringing back about 800 bolts and nuts and washers back from the space station.
We had to pinch ourselves every time we looked out the overhead window. It was just hard to believe that we were docked to a new International Space Station. The view of the aft and forward flight decks of Endeavour. Kind of take you on a little tour as we transit through the mid-deck access hatch. Behind that door and curtain is the bathroom on the space shuttle. The mid-deck is where we do all our living and sleeping and eating. Here you can see Jim down on the mid-deck. He was in charge of transferring all the equipment to and from the space station, making sure that what went that was supposed to got there and what didn't stayed. Rick's bringing back some stuff that had been removed from the space station for shipment home to Houston. These large bags held all that equipment. You can see it was kind of a tight squeeze. We had a lot of stuff packaged all over. Again, transiting through the hatch into the tunnel that connects to the airlock. You can see a booster fan down there to help circulate air between all the modules so that we could scrub the CO2 and provide oxygen for everybody, as well as maintaining the proper temperature and humidity. Instead of going out through the aft hatch, we now go up through the upper hatch of the airlock into the space station. More of that ducting circulating the air. Into the pressurized mating adapter, and then down into Unity. Here's Jerry and Nancy reviewing procedures for the next work that they have to get started on. We were really busy for the 2 days that we were docked to the space station. Across Unity into pressurized mating adapter 1, and here comes Sergey floating by as he exits Zarya. Into the first compartment of Zarya. Again, you can see the ducting that we installed. And finally into the main compartment. Again, Zarya is not meant to be a living module. It's a working module and more or less a corridor between the other modules of the space station. A really fantastic facility. Probably one of the sad points of the mission was when we closed the hatch on the space station after being aboard for 2 days. Sure was a pretty sight seeing the space station attached to Endeavour, but then came the point in the mission where we had to separate and prepare to come home.
And this next sequence of shots again highlights all the teamwork on this crew that really went into almost every event. There were at least 2 of us, and you'll be able to see here as we separate right there from PMA-2 from the orbiter docking system and begin to back away. When we get to 2 feet, then I'll put in some out pulses which will cause Endeavour to fly away from the International Space Station.
Rick was at the flight controls at the aft flight deck for this portion of the mission and flew Endeavour away from the space station out to a distance of 450 feet and then flew around it 1.5 times, and he did an outstanding job.
We undocked in darkness, but very quickly the sun rose, and this shows everybody. There's Nancy at the front inputting the orbiter attitudes,
into the Space Shuttle computer system. There's Jerry is closing out the docking system, performing the final steps to secure that. And Jim was assisting with the computers and taking handheld laser marks. As the sun came up, it was very bright in the cockpit, and fortunately the experienced crew members warned me that it would be necessary to have sunglasses. As we backed away, we just had beautiful views of the space station that we couldn't really see as well when we were right docked with it, but it was just a beautiful sight against the background of the Earth there. And you can see Sergei is beginning the photo documentation. We flew around 1.5 times so that the station could be documented from all sides with different lighting. And those photos will be analyzed by the folks on the ground and used to train future crews as well.
What a fantastic view. What a sense of accomplishment to see an operating International Space Station on orbit.
The first announcement of the cosmonaut's death came from the TASS press agency. Moscow radio interrupted its early morning bulletin to read it and followed the reading by solemn music. There's still no news about the possible cause of death beyond the original statement that this was being investigated.
Well, here, still with the switches turned off.
Okay. Oh, hey! Wait a minute. What? Where are the reflections? I've been through once. There is orange soil. Well, don't move it till I see it. It's all over. Orange! Don't move it till I see it. I've stirred it up with my feet. Hey, it is! I can see it from here. It's orange. Wait a minute, let me put my visor up. It's still orange. Sure it is. Crazy. Orange. I've got to dig a trench, Houston.
Copy that. I guess we better work fast.
Out of his wits. It really is.
Is it the same color as these?
Temperature on the SEP is about 100 and... Temperature on the SEP's about 102. It's almost the same color as the LMP decal on my camera.
Okay, copy that.
That is orange, Jack. Well, this brush is getting harder to get on and off, too. But I sure don't want to lose it. Man, I might start putting that under my seat. Well, zap me with a little cold water. Okay, the SEP has been dusted. I think I gave you 102 or something like that. Fantastic, sports fans. It's trench time. You can see this in your color television, I'll bet you. How can there be orange soil on the moon? Jack, that is really orange. It's been oxidized. Go around and get the lunar sounder over here. It looks just like an oxidized desert soil. That's exactly right. Well, I'm going to clean their glasses so they know we're... Can you wait a minute on that pan you're taking? I already took it. No, I mean the television camera. I'll put you back where I had you. Now, I'll let you put you right where you finished your pants.
Attention pour les décomptes finales. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité, top.
And we have engine start. And liftoff.
Décollage.
Decollage, liftoff from a tropical rainforest to the edge of time itself. James Webb begins a voyage back to the birth of the universe. Punching a hole through the clouds, 20 seconds into the flight, good pitch program reported.
Trajectoire est nominale.
Vehicle performance is nominal.
His name is George D. Pinky Nelson, is about to float free from the Space Shuttle Challenger out into space and try to retrieve a disabled satellite about 200 feet away.
We can now see pictures, or just could, of the ailing satellite about 200 feet away from the Shuttle Challenger. And there is astronaut George Nelson in the cargo bay of the shuttle, preparing to leave the shuttle and drift off to the satellite.
The plan was just at sunrise for the George Nelson to begin to translate over to the ailing satellite, and you can see him leaving the payload bay now.
Good, you're moving south through my end. How are you doing, okay? Okay, looking good.
An extraordinary marriage of the world's most advanced technology. The spacesuit transforms George Nelson into a human satellite. The jet backpack has turned George Nelson into a human spaceship. He travels with his own oxygen, his own water, his own electricity, his own propulsion system, and his own lights.
Got checklist handy, scope?
And he even has his own nose scratcher in the helmet in case his nose gets itchy.
Trip to Solar Max estimated to take 10 minutes.
Something that makes this task a little more difficult than otherwise is the fact that the satellite is spinning, and when he gets close to the satellite, he's going to have to match the turning rate of the satellite before he is able to attach himself to that satellite and bring it to a stop.
There you see the astronaut, and in the lower left-hand corner, the solar panels of the satellite. The satellite was launched in February of 1980. You were saying they have practiced and rehearsed for this on the ground, in water tanks, and in various simulators, but doing it is quite a different thing. And we now have pictures of Pinky Nelson as he approaches his quarry. Nelson moving at about 1/2 mile an hour. He could go faster if he had to. He is not attached to the shuttle. And this sort of performance, you just said real pretty down there, I imagine it is. The backpack was tested out on the last shuttle mission.
You know, it's unfortunate that the camera can't catch what the human eye can see in space. Every astronaut that comes back says that the pictures do not do justice to the sight that you see when you're really up in space and seeing it for the first time.
And that is the cargo bay of the shuttle.
Morton Dean reporting from Houston. We always try to end this program with something beautiful from the world of nature. Can't think of anything more beautiful or remarkable than that. The story of what happens next will be told on Face the Nation to follow and on other CBS News programs throughout this day. I'm Charles Kuralt. I hope you'll join us here again next Sunday morning.
Making this repair in space, if they can do it, rather than ditching the satellite and having to start all over again.
Lynn, the alternative is this satellite is basically in a 90% useless mode right now, and to get the information we need, we'd have to launch an entire new satellite, which is obviously going to be very costly, probably in today's dollars, $250 million. I think if you want to calculate the repair cost of this mission, you're down somewhere around $40 or $50 million. And as a result, you know, we have 2 other satellites up there, as a matter of fact, that we left up there on that last mission. There's some discussion as to whether or not it's worthwhile bringing them back, but this certainly will not just demonstrate, but prove a capability to do so at any time in the future.
Well, this is just in case you got a little confused. That's Pinky Nelson, George Nelson, in the middle of that circle, flying over towards the Solar Max satellite, which is on the right. That big rectangle you see is one of the solar panels that provide the energy to Solar Max. That's what keeps it going. Incidentally, the ground people at the Goddard Space Flight Center outside of Washington earlier today turned off the attitude control system. That's the first repair they're going to make. That's what they need to do to make it continue to point towards the sun so they can get some valuable information back. They've turned it off so that it can be repaired a little bit later this morning.
Getting a little close. That's the base of the Solar Max satellite itself.
Story, what are we looking at on the left there?
That looks like the RMS grapple fixture. On the upper left-hand side, the black fixture there is where the remote arm would grab that. This TV shot should be coming from Pinky's, the TV camera mounted on his helmet.
From his own helmet. This is almost what he sees now. Now, we're almost vicariously, if nothing else, we're going to dock with that satellite.
That's the attitude control system right there. That panel right there is the one to be replaced.
Okay, that's really a you are there kind of thing. We are
you are here,
right
sure is. This is history, and we're living it at the moment.
That's a color camera now that we just saw before on Pinky's helmet.
See, he's slipping in between. Now it's rotating. Remember, the whole thing is rotating. He'll start rotating with it very, very slowly, and he's trying to slip in between those wings, which are solar panels.
Once again, this is his view, and what you said is terribly important, Gene. He has got to match the exact rotation of the satellite. He is going to go around with it until he's right in sync, and then he will be able to slip under those solar panels and dock.
And it's a very delicate maneuver type of situation. It's not difficult, but it's a very sensitive type of thing in zero gravity, and it looks like he's doing it extremely well. Now we can see the slow rotation. We're sitting here on the Space Shuttle, on Challenger right now, witnessing this event. Objectives here will be after he docks, he will rotate with the satellite for a period of time until he's told from the Challenger to stop its rotation, and that's his objective, to stop the rotation so the Challenger with its very useful arm can grab it, bring it back into the payload bay.
Gene, we took a look earlier at what went wrong with Solar Max and what the point of this repair mission is all about. Let's take a look at some of that. Whatever happened that made this mission necessary?
4 years ago, the United States began what it called the Solar Maximum mission, launching a satellite to observe solar flares, those violent explosions on the sun's surface. They intensify every 11 years in what's known as the solar maximum, which is how the satellite got its name. Scientists anticipated 2 years of data from Solar Max, but after just 10 months in orbit, the satellite developed mechanical problems. 4 of its 7 onboard experiments aren't working. Worse yet, a wobble impairs Solar Max's full-time orientation towards the sun. That's what the shuttle repairmen hope to fix.
Okay, we are back with live pictures from space right now, approximately 300 miles above the Earth. You are looking at a view of the Solar Max satellite, the one that is broken, rotating, and there is another fellow, a human, about to attach himself to it, Pinky Nelson. He, of course, will become a satellite himself as he attaches himself to it, spinning around the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour. Story, you almost did that.
I was out there. You can see the velocity. You can see how fast you're going across the Earth.
What you're seeing, obviously, Pinky Nelson on the top of your screen has moved away from, well, it's flaring out from the sun now, but has moved away from the satellite. He was much closer a couple of minutes ago, and he has not performed what he's supposed to do.
It's still rotating. We can see that. He has not hard docked.
I think he's going out now where he can get mechanical advantage to the end of the wing and grab the wing.
In order to try to stop it.
Stop the rotation.
Now, but if he stops the rotation, why wouldn't it just start all by itself again?
That's Bob Crippen and
manually. He backed away from the satellite. He tried to grab hold of one of the solar panels and stop it manually so that the remote arm could come and pick it up. That didn't work either, and he just got the word from Challenger, from Bob Crippen, to abort and to come on back to the cargo bay. Story Musgrave, this is not at all what anybody expected to happen.
No, it isn't. It's a surprise. It's a surprise that the satellite was still active in terms of its attitude control, and in fact, it was resisting being docked to and retrieved.